Hello, this is lesson 10B, the second video of 2, manipulating web pages with CSS selectors, part of a series, web design lessons for the professional writing portfolio. For this lesson, you need to open up all your web pages, and then we will begin by adding 3 more selectors to review 10A. The selectors will be the link selectors. Moving over to Dreamweaver and selecting the Index tab and Style Sheet button, you can see all the selectors we created in 10A. Your Dreamweaver will default to the Files panel. Let's make sure this is in Remote Server View. Then click on CSS Designer panel. Under the Selectors section, we will scroll down to List Selector, click it once, then click Add Selector, A Link. This selector will control the links that are not visited by users. A Hover. This selector will render links in a particular way when users hover over them. Visited. This selector controls the rendering of links that have been visited by users or clicked on. Now that we've created those selectors, let's move to centering the body content on a web page using width and margin. First, I'm going to save the work that I just did with Command S, making sure that stylesheet.css is selected here. Now over in CSS Designer panel, I'm going to click Body Selector. Next, I'm going to the Width property under Layout and Properties. I'm going to change that to 1%. You can experiment with this. I will use 60%. And then I'm going to click Command S to save that. Next, I'm going to scroll down to margin, and I'm going to type auto and then press return. After each time that I enter these values for the properties, I do click return. Command S to save the change, and you can see in the designer view that these changes are affecting the text. Next, let's add an image to the header and change the padding to make the text look good within that area. I've already uploaded the image, but I'm going to delete it now and re-upload it to show you how I do this. So find an image that fits your personality but is still professional. Maybe it shows your character in an abstract way. Navigate to your image. I happen to have it in a folder for this course. My image is header image rocks moss. Just as we did with the PDF files, I'm going to drag and drop it into the local view. So make sure in Dreamweaver you're under Files, Local View. Go back to Finder. This may take me a couple tries, but you can drag and drop, hold down, let's try this. Now I'm going to put the file on the remote server. I'm going to view remote server to see that it's there. Next, we are changing the background of the header. You can put your cursor right on the header selector area in the code view, or go to CSS Designer, and you can see that the selector is highlighted. Layout, text, borders, background. I'm going to click background. We have background image property. I'm going to use the browse folder, which will default to the local folder where I dragged and dropped the image. Highlight, open, and you can see in the designer view that there is now a background image. Command save under style sheet button. Now we're going to change the padding property. This will give more space between the text and the edge of the header border or boundary. Scrolling back up, maybe faster would be to click layout. Scroll down, padding. Type in 30px, or you can experiment with your own padding numbers and values. And we can see in the designer view that the padding is changed around the text. Command S. I'm going to change the background color of the article area so you can see how this is done, but I will not leave it that way. Article. In the code view, CSS Designer view, we can see the article is highlighted. Under Properties, click Background. Click the Set Background Color tool. Drag it up to gray. Hit Enter Return. And we can see that the background color of the article area has changed. You can do this for any selector. I'm going to delete this property and value. Click Command Save, and we can see that the background color has changed back to white. Next, let's change the font color in the header. An important concept for web design and print design is called CRAP principles. The contrast, which is the C, for the text and the background image is poor. It's hard to see what the text looks like. So we're going to change the font color to white. Clicking on the header selector in the code view, or going to CSS Designer, scrolling down to header and selecting it once. We want to click under Properties, Text, under Color, Property. We're going to take the selector and move it all the way up to white, and you can see the hex number down there. Click Enter Return, and the font has changed to white. It's a little bit better, but you may want to play with this a bit more. If you need to, you may have to change your background image to improve the contrast and legibility. Command S to save the changes. Next, we're going to change the properties and values for the link selectors. Going to CSS Designer for a change. We're going down to the 3 new selectors. So for the A-link unvisited links, we'll go to Text under Properties and change the font weight to bold. We're going to take off the underline under Text decoration properties by saying no decoration. The next change will be the hover selector. Let's, for illustrative purposes, change the color when people hover over, or users hover over your links, to red. And I'm going to click Return, Enter. And visited links, let's change visited links to black. Command save. In the designer view, we can see that the unvisited link text has changed, but we will only see the hover and visited link changes once we go to the live browser. I'm not a fan of serif font or Times New Roman or Times in the text of web pages. So I'm going to change this to a sans serif font, such as Arial or Helvetica. Tahoma is another one. So scrolling up, I'm going to click on the body selector. You can do this also over in CSS Designer panel. I'm going to change it for all the body, all sections. I'm going to change the font family to Gotham, Helvetica, Neue, Helvetica, Arial, sans serif. The rendering of this particular font family could be a little too crowded, so I'm going to get rid of Gotham and keep Helvetica and Arial, or remove Helvetica and Arial and keep Helvetica Neue and sans serif. Command save. We can see in the designer view that the font has changed to a sans serif font. And now we need to confirm CSS links are on all pages, and make sure that all pages that render with the properties and value changes. Going over to our live web browser and pages, we see that the text is all the way across. We need to reload to see the changes to the width, the margins, the color, and so forth. Command R. We can see the header has changed. We can see that the navigation is bold, or the links, and we can see that the typeface has changed. We can look at this at Resume, Professional Writing, let's click on Academic Center for Tutoring, and there we have our changes. One thing I noticed is that the hovering is not changing. We can look at that, go to text, red. Let's change this. If it doesn't work in this browser, then you need to test it in another browser. And we can see that it didn't work in Safari, but the changes to the link selector work. in Chrome. This is the end of Lesson 10B. Now it's up to you to apply these skills. Please experiment with selector properties and values to make your site unique to your personality, but user-friendly and legible.